the shuffle today at the White House could have implications that go beyond political posturing. You're shocked, I know. Susan Rice does not need the Senate stamp of approval to become President Obama's national security advisor. And for the sake of argument, let's assume Samantha Power is confirmed by the Senate as the next ambassador to the United Nations. With their new roles, could we see a change in the president's policy on Syria? Joining me now is Richard Cohen, a left-leaning columnist for The Washington Post, whose latest column was titled, "Cold-Hearted Liberals Have Abandoned Syria." Richard, thanks so much for joining us. It's not like the president is averse to turning down advice on Syria. He rejected a plan before from Panetta and Clinton and others to arm the rebels. Do you think it's possible that these two, who have spoken so much about preventing genocide and slaughter of innocents, do you think it's possible that Rice and Power could change course on Syrian policy?
Well, I doubt it. I think the policy's been set. I mean, it's certainly been set by the president. He's already unhesitatingly overruled his Secretary of Defense, his Secretary of State, his CIA director on providing arms to the Syrian rebels. I can't see him moving because of his new appointees. I don't see what they bring to the table that hasn't already been brought to the table. And in fact, he's had Dennis McDonough on his staff, who's now the chief of staff, and in the National Security Council. So I don't see these appointments as game changers. I just think they're personnel changes.
This is related to what you wrote in your piece yesterday, that people who would typically want to push intervention have decided not to do so in Syria. We know Susan Rice has not been pushing intervention in Syria, although she did so for Libya. Why do you think that is?
You know, the truth is, I'm dismayed. I mean, there's this Iraq syndrome, such as that anything that we do is going to wind up in some sort of quagmire. It's like we're back to the Vietnam syndrome. I don't see Syria as Iraq all over again. I mean, I would like to see the United States intervene. 2 years ago, I wanted the United States to provide arms to the Syrian rebels, the moderate rebels. My battle cry is not on to Damascus. My battle cry is let's save some lives if we can. And we could have. It may be too late now, but supplying arms is not such a big deal. We know how to do that. Sifting the bad guys from the good guys, we're pretty good at that, too. And we will make mistakes along the way. There's no question about it. But you've got 80,000, at least 80,000, maybe 100,000 dead, this huge refugee catastrophe taking place in the Middle East, everything spinning out of control, and the least effective player in the whole region is the United States of America. It's kind of preposterous. It's also kind of appalling.
Richard Cohen, one last quick question, which is if you look at polls, especially the NBC Wall Street Journal poll, of what Americans want to do regarding Syria, you see that what's actually happened, military action, it's about the same, 13% in March, 15% now, 11% then and now for arming the opposition, 48% humanitarian assistance in March, 42% now. Basically, what we have seen since March is just fewer people who want even humanitarian assistance. You could argue President Obama is doing more than most Americans want.
Well, I could argue that he's showing no leadership. If he showed some leadership, the American people would understand and would follow him. I don't think you never see people, the population as a whole, take a lead. I don't remember American people clamoring for action in Bosnia, and it worked, or in Libya, and it worked. In fact, the American people didn't clamor for action in World War II. Roosevelt had to lead the country into the war, and with the help of the declaration of war from Germany. So if you're going to rely on the people to do it, you'll wait forever.
Columnist Richard Cohen, thank you so much for coming and sharing your views.